Hey there, fans of brotherly love wrestling. It is I, Vic Delicious.
Philly's own, the Mecca here.
It is the real McCoy, J.D.X. Justin D. Xavier. And
it's your man, CD, the fallen angel, Christopher Daniels.
Hello, boys and girls. This is your old friend RJ City.
Hey there, brotherly love wrestling. Bill Carr here.
Hey everyone, this is two-time guest Wheeler Yuta.
Two bozos from Philadelphia flapping their gums about pro wrestling this, pro wrestling that.
Which is not that unique in the grand scheme of things yet.
You are in for a treat because you're tuned in to Brotherly Love Wrestling.
Philadelphia, are you ready?
No! They said, are you ready?
This is Brotherly Love Wrestling Podcast, your first stop for everything professional wrestling. So sit back and enjoy wrestling talk at its finest with your hosts, Larry Hall and Joe Corrado.
Welcome, everybody, to Brotherly Love Wrestling. And conspicuous by his absence, Joe is not here today. Instead, we got a fill-in here, a familiar face from our show. If you watched and listened, Mr. Scott Rand is filling in. Scott, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, Larry, thanks for having me. And yeah, anytime I can kick Joe out of here is, it's a welcome change, I'm sure.
So, with this time of year, it's hard with vacations and stuff like that. We've been off for 2 weeks, so because of stuff like that. But last we talked, the WCW Essential Series is what we put out because of the new Who Killed WCW Vice series that's out, which I've watched. Didn't watch last night's, but I watched the first 2 episodes so far.
Same. Yeah.
It's everything I expected and a little bit more. Like, there is some stuff that I wasn't expecting. Right now it looks like Eric Bischoff is taking it on the chin for the most part.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfairly so, from what I've been watching, and a lot of the I think what you look at is a lot of the upper execs in Turner.
Yeah.
You're fighting a losing battle when you have executives up in TV in the TV company who just could care less and never wanted wrestling in the first place. So I don't know. I mean, look, I didn't watch last night's, like I said, and we saw one more, but so far I still don't put the blame on Eric Bischoff. I mean, granted, were the shit that he made mistakes on? Absolutely. But as far as him killing WCW, I don't know if I agree with that so far.
I wouldn't. Well, I guess, if you define what actually killed it, you would, you could point to the executives, because that's an aspect of this whole story that I really wasn't familiar with. And I didn't think I was going to learn anything new.
Mm-hmm.
But the part that interests me is exactly that. I had no idea that behind the scenes, the company itself didn't want WCW to survive.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at the beginning, like of what started the death, if you will, I think it still goes back to Bischoff and probably more so Hogan, because that part of, I think it was maybe on the first episode when they really talked about Starrcade 97.
Mm-hmm.
That was a story I never heard either, where basically Bischoff said that Hogan felt like Sting wasn't ready for it or wasn't into it. And that I'd never heard before. I would be very interested to hear what Sting would say to those comments.
Yeah.
Because it felt like that was the real turning point. Like everything, it always felt that way anyway, to those of us who watched it. But it feels like that was the point where they made a call, Hogan and Bischoff, or maybe Hogan did and Bischoff, of course, just agree with him.
Yeah.
But that's when they changed everything based on what they perceived as Sting not feeling up to the challenge. And it felt like that was the first little,
Yeah.
dent,
Yeah.
and then everything just went
Yeah.
sideways, and the booking and the NWO. So I guess, maybe with Bischoff getting all the blame, it's not fair, but maybe just the fact that that's where it started.
Yeah, I mean,
But
a lot of the creative shit, like I'll
yeah,
give, you know what I mean? A lot of the
yeah.
stuff, some of the, like, what I think it was, like you just said, is the momentum. Like, you had that momentum of 83 weeks, and all of a sudden you get stopped real quick.
Mhm.
And it just like, oh shit, how do I get that momentum back now? You start backpedaling, now you start treading water. All of a sudden you're like, shit, now they've beaten us 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks in a row now, and now you're panicking, and now it's shit, we gotta do something controversial, we gotta do this, like that. I think that's where the Bishop lane comes in, is, yeah, all you did is when you were up was gloat, and you know what I mean, and just, oh, we're the best, and Vince, come fight me, and sit in the middle of a ring with a crown on, and you know what I mean, and crown yourself the champion. Like, man, do you think Vince McMahon is going to do that if he gets a lead? Like, he is going to put his foot on your throat and bury you. Like, that is a giant mistake. That is one thing I will say is, just because you're up doesn't mean you're going to be up forever. And 83 weeks is a long time, but still, like, I mean, look, Hunter said this with that Wednesday Night War thing. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And you can't think that, oh, I got this. Especially when your competitor is Vince McMahon. Like, that's the other thing at that point. So, yeah, I think, yes, there is blame to go around with, including Bischoff, but I can't wait to watch last night's episode, and then, of course, the conclusion. I can't wait to see.
Yeah, I know they get into in the latest episode, they get into the new blood phase when they bring Russo in.
Okay.
Which I can remember watching that, and they basically just did a hard reboot, by having everybody drop the titles. And I remember at the time thinking it was really cool because they were bringing in they were changing it up, and guys that were getting elevated that didn't have a chance, and they brought in a lot of like supposed internet rumor rivalries, like Douglas and Flair and Kidman and Hogan.
Yeah.
So it did make it interesting again for a little while. Yeah, I'll be curious to see about that. And I just to touch on Bischoff again too. I guess I don't know if he was entirely his decision, but some of the decisions that he made after Starrcade, the airing of the Goldberg match on free TV instead of pay-per-view. There was another one. The fact that they gave away Foley's title change.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, I think a lot of it wasn't entirely on him. There were others involved in the decision, especially. One funny thing I read about, do you notice how, like, in the first episode, Nash seemed particularly, like, just really laid back and just kind of mumbling? And I remember I was even talking to my friend about it. He said, oh boy, Nash just seems so out of it these days. And then you come to find about a week later, I think I read, he's like, oh yeah, I was high the whole time they were interviewing me. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense.
So I listen to Click This on a weekly basis. He drops them every Monday. And so I think when the first one aired, the next episode was about it. And they talked about it. And that's exactly what he said. He's like, I just got high. And he's like, I actually kind of did it half character. He said, I kind of went like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it kind of, and it came off that way. When you're watching it, you look at it, it kind of looks like the Kevin Nash wrestling character. You know what I mean? Because anyone who listens to his podcast, it's a lot like that. Like he's very, I know he's a big advocate for marijuana, and a lot of like the Get Blitz stuff and stuff like that, like all their ads and stuff, which is fine. But I feel like, all right, so I'm glad. All right, Kevin Nash is going to put me into the, because that's one thing. Me and Joe have the same mindset when it comes to Kevin Nash, and a lot of the older guys, like the mindset. I understand a lot of, and I see a lot of it, and I agree with a lot of it. So that second episode, when he starts talking about booking and wanting to take some of the pressure off of Bischoff, he said a phrase, and I've said it on the show. So I mean, I obviously agree with it. Is a baby face is at his best when he's chasing.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like a heel champion makes more money and a baby face makes more money when a heel is the champion and the baby face is chasing. Look at Cody. That chase was an amazing chase. And now a little bit with the AJ Styles stuff, obviously it has gotten a little bit better. But like when he won and that first month after winning, it was kind of like, man, is this Cody as champ going to work? And even to the point where I know Kevin Nash said it, and I can't remember who on Busted Open even said it as well, almost the same type scenario. But they said, I would have had, because they kept saying Bloodline Rules, right? Was the match.
Right.
And you had all this stuff and Cody winning. Why not turn around after Cody wins and go, no, we said Bloodline Rules. This match ain't over. We're starting this match. And then take the belt from him. And then now you have Roman. Now obviously Roman was going to take a break, so we get that. But you know what I mean? And that was their mindset, was like, no. All right, he won. He got his moment. He held the title at Mania, but and then you take that shit right back, or you do it on Monday night where you turn around and you go, Bloodline Rules, we never said what that meant. Like you gotta that title, you can't win by that. All those people, you couldn't have all those people come out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what their mindset was. Take that shit right back, have him chase longer, and have another build. Like, I understand that mindset now. I absolutely loved how they did it. So I don't really wanted that to happen. But I agree with what Kevin said when it came to Goldberg. Like, have that chase. Have that chase. Have him chase it. Like, that's why they took it off him. Like he said, Bill had it too long. Now, was that a selfish saying of him saying that? But like, obviously not, because he just turned around and gave it to Hogan. You know what I mean? He didn't hold the title. Hogan got it back. Now, again, was that a selfish move? Probably. Was that Hogan saying, hey, let's do this? Probably. But I get the concept of what he's saying, and maybe there are a lot of people that don't like that mindset. That's an old school mindset. But you look at some of the best championship runs, best stories that we've seen, it's always a babyface chasing and finally getting that. And then when they turn around and get the title, they typically really fail afterwards. There's not a lot of people.
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan's a very good one.
Kofi.
Yeah. Now, Kofi was, I don't think it's fair for Kofi because they turned around and fucking squashed him.
True.
You know what I mean? With
really
Brock,
he
didn't get a chance.
His story. Yeah, that's true.
Like,
but Daniel Bryan especially, like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he got hurt, not too soon after, but that was exactly the same, almost the same situation. Like, as soon as he won, it's like, well, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's funny that you wanted to do the Dusty finish on Cody.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I on the other hand, I mean, I'm glad they stuck with the plan, because we got a couple of good AJ matches, and like you said, Roman, disappears, and of course we get the new Bloodline, which, I mean, I'm very invested in. I think that's come off really well, and finally it seems like we're getting to the point where now we're gonna, that the Bloodline and Cody are going to intersect again because of what we saw at Clash of the Castle.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if this would come off as well as it has come off, as the Bloodline has come off, if it wasn't for Paul Heyman.
For sure.
If you want to call it acting or whatever.
Yes.
His facials, everything that he does, you've never seen him be scared of a client like he is. Like, he respected Roman and idolized Roman, And even Brock Lesnar, even when he was with Brock, like he was never scared of Brock Lesnar. Like he respected his power and respected him being the beast, but scared was not a thing Paul Heyman has ever been. So this is a different version of a Paul Heyman that we're not used to, and it's
And very
phenomenal.
conflicted.
Yeah,
He seems very conflicted. Some of those camera shots, which are very well done, he just seems like this doesn't feel right, or even this.
yeah.
It's all. I mean, it's gonna. I just love it every week. I'm hooked on the story.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing when you talk WWE, especially over the past, obviously, I mean, Bloodline has started it all 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
but like the storytelling and it's all over the place.
Thank
And
yes, in a good
that's
way.
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not putting just random stuff together and hoping that this clicks. Like everything seems to be done for a reason.
Yes.
And I
That was
think
what I was missing for years. It just felt like parts of it just had no purpose, but now it's almost like every match and segment. It's
uh-huh.
like, oh, this is part of the Otis
Yes.
Gable story. This is part of the Judgment Day story. Like everything, it picks up little, points in the story and the plot.
Yeah, and I think that's why like looking at what Monday Night put off and looking at all the stories. I mean,
Yeah.
you finally had that payoff, and I probably said it 2 or 3 weeks ago about the Otis and Chad Gable story is like as good as it is, because I think it is very good, and I could be a hypocrite because I like long storytelling, but I was already sick of this tease of Otis turning. And I'm like,
Oh,
come
it was
on.
dragon. It was dragon.
Yeah, and that's my one complaint about it was just like, dude, like just have them turn already. Like I get it, you have to buy time and you're getting, I mean, you have pay-per-views coming up and stuff like that. I get it. But like I just want all right, it's about time. Like it's about time. So I'm glad we finally saw that. I'm glad um actually the perception is that it's over. Now they could come back next Monday and it not be over. But
I have a thought on that, something I'd like to see.
mhm.
And of course, we'll touch on this later. This all depends on whether or not Chad Gable is actually still alive.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to see is Gable bring in a couple of guys to be with him. And I think there's two guys that haven't been utilized in a while that would fit right behind him because they're, athletic wrestlers. I don't know if you can guess who I'm talking about.
I think I know. I mean, I have a tag team in mind.
Okay.
But I don't know if we're on the same wavelength. Like, this is a lot easier, and I'm used to with Joe. I can pick up what it is. I think I know where you're going with this, but my pick would be the Creed brothers.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
We're on the same mind. Yeah. No.
Okay.
I think the fact that they haven't been on television, I think that they would fit. I mean, just picture the three of them. Like,
Yeah.
do they look like a unit?
Yeah, absolutely.
And plus, what a great way. I think they would come off better as heels. Everybody starts better as heels, you know. I think that as we said, if Chad's not dead, then bring in the Creeds, feud with Otis. Maybe Otis can find another tag team out there, and I think that'd be a great program.
Yeah, I agree. I think a new Alpha Academy, a rebooted Alpha Academy.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think those three who could wreak havoc, and it's I mean, with a team like the Judgment Day still around, and you still have a lot of these tag teams you're not using. That's one thing that God, probably since or even before AEW came around, that tag team division in WWE has been, I mean, not for lack of talent, let me put it that way, but they just do not feature tag team wrestling like they once did. I mean,
sure.
And they have a shitload of talent. You look at just DIY and even the champs, Miz and Truth, like
they're
as
so
happy.
fun. Yeah.
I mean, they're great and they're entertaining as hell, but like they're not tag team champions in the, you know what I mean, original sense of just like there's not enough tag team wrestling on Raw, and which is ridiculous saying that with a 3-hour show that you have, that you can't dedicate 15 to 25 minutes on tag team wrestling. Like, I think that's a shame, but yeah, I think those guys with Gable, it could help them with character development because Gable's character has come a long way. And yeah, I think it would be more interesting. I think, yeah, you get Otis to be a singles guy again. I don't know what that does to Tozawa because he's never really lit the world on fire. But
not in the character he certainly is now. I mean, obviously his past, he was a beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, this maybe this is a good way to drop that persona, and he can go elsewhere or do something else. But yeah, definitely the Creed brothers bringing in there, and the I mean, I know I just read an article where Triple H was just going on about Gable, and just thinking I had no idea that Triple H had such love for him, but that just shows you that Gable's going to be here for a while, and he's going to be, he's going to eventually be getting that Intercontinental title or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, anyone who's followed Triple H through his wrestling career, and now obviously since he's taken over and been in full control, he, like, all those words you couldn't say. You know what I mean? The dirty word of pro wrestler, and being able to reference outside companies, bringing in people from TNA, stuff like that, things that Vince would die before let happening. He appreciates the wrestler. He appreciates someone who works their ass off and can kill it in the ring, but can show that potential in a character and on camera and in a promo, which Chad Gable has done all of that. So I think, yeah, with Triple H, you're going to see. Now, look, is he going to have his faults? Is he going to have his misses? Is he going to have people that people think he should use and he's misusing? Of course, because you can't please everybody. But I think he's getting more right than he has wrong since he's taken over.
So to that point, what did you think of the decision to have Punk interfere and cost Drew the match in Scotland? I don't know. I thought the smart play would have had Drew win and start to feud with Punk and build towards a match at SummerSlam, but they went in a different direction, and I don't know. The whole situation seems odd. But what was your take on it?
I think I had two mindsets. Punk was not involved in either one. First of all, I didn't see it coming. Which made me happy that I didn't see it coming because, like majority of real wrestling fans, you like to be surprised. You don't want spoilers. So I was pleasantly surprised, and I thought
shot beautifully.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Well executed as far as presentation, to where that second ref coming out, you go to that wide shot, you have no idea who it is, and then the camera behind him only seeing the back of his head and the body, and then when he pulls up at 2, the camera switching and seeing his face. Like, I was like, this is movie level shit. Like, they did such a good job on the production. But so my first thought was, all right, you screwed him over the first time overseas. You had him fucking singing whatever. I can't remember what it was.
Right.
And the cameras actually forgot to turn off, and the live feed caught it, and now everyone fucking saw him like a dope singing at a pay-per-view. So I thought, man, hometown, this is the payoff. This is all right, we did this the first time, we're going to get you the second time. But there was also a part of me that kind of felt like, yeah, Vince is gone, but this is still the WWE. And whether it's on your birthday or in your hometown, you don't fucking win. And it was in his hometown. And in my head, I'm going, man, I think they might not give it to him because the track record of WWE is you're in your hometown, you get your ass beat, something happens and you get
Yeah.
screwed. And that's been since the Attitude Era. That's not something new. That they've been doing that. I mean, how many times did Jim Ross get his ass kicked in Oklahoma? Every time they visited, like it's just you don't. It's just I don't understand what it is, but so there was that thought in my head. Now, obviously, the second one was right, but I didn't see a Punk. I like it. It adds way more heat. It's a very heel thing to do for a babyface Punk and a heel McIntyre. But in that arena, it's the only place that Drew's going to get cheered. Like
Yeah.
Friday night in Chicago, Punk is not going to get fucking booed. Like, we know this for a fact. He is in Chicago. He is not getting booed in Chicago.
Right.
And Drew has been getting booed. Drew has, like, he has been the heel. So, and like we said, Punk is the babyface. So I love it. I thought it was a genius idea. Like I said, shot perfectly. I don't have a problem with it. I feel like, even though he said he quits, I feel like it's just more to build to Punk and McIntyre, but I wouldn't mind seeing McIntyre show up in TNA and return the favor from all these TNA guys. He's a former, you know what I mean? I would love to see McIntyre do that.
You know where I'd like to see him show up in TNA is next weekend in Philadelphia.
Not that you're biased or anything.
Not that I'm biased.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be fun to see because Punk did say in that presser after Clash that he was going to SmackDown. He was going home and going to see if he's going to get cleared and let everybody know Friday night if he's cleared. So I feel like that means he is cleared. I feel like that's the whole reason behind that.
And
excuse me.
Actually, if you think about it, Drew said he quit and he ran into who's the Raw GM?
Pierce,
thank you. Maybe he jumps ship and goes to SmackDown, and that would be a great way to have him show up Friday night, beat the hell out of Punk in front of Chicago, and he got a contract with Aldis, and now he's a SmackDown guy. I mean, I think that would be phenomenal too.
Yeah,
definitely. Because we know he didn't quit.
Yeah.
Now you can say, I quit Raw, but I went to SmackDown.
Yeah.
The TNA thing, though, that's interesting too. I don't know how much they're going to send their way, but I could definitely,
I do want to kind of veer to that a little bit because before the last time we had our show, and we did the Essential WCW, at the end of the show, I was talking about Battleground, and we had on that card we had Jordynne Grace versus Roxanne Perez for the women's title. We saw an appearance by formerly Dana Brooke in that match, Ash by Elegance in TNA. And a hell of a card, which no shocker to anyone that watches NXT because they just continue to put on amazing shows no matter what. But then this past week, or actually last night, as we're recording on Wednesday, is you had the 25-man Battle Royal, which they announced last week that was going to happen for the number one contender. And they did say that it was people from multiple rosters were going to be in this. So as they start the show off, you get a Joe Hendry joining this Battle Royal, which I don't think anyone thought, like, everyone wanted it. Everyone wanted to see Joe Hendry cross over and come to WWE with how popular he's been. But I don't think anyone actually expected them to do it.
Right.
When that music hit, man, and it sucks. It sucks that where they tape is as small as it is. Because if that was a Raw or SmackDown, that place would have came unglued. But I understand it because the NXT fans are a more rabid, hardcore fan base than a Raw or SmackDown fan base. So the odds of all of those people knowing who Joe Hendry is is probably better than the odds of a Raw or SmackDown crowd knowing who Joe Hendry is. You know what I mean? Like, just like
That's fair.
AEW. You know what I mean? Just like
Sure.
AEW's crowd, they're passionate, they're knowledgeable. They know everything that's going on in the indies. They know all the social media stuff because it is a younger demo. Where a Raw and SmackDown crowd, you're getting a lot of families, you're getting kids, you're getting people who aren't going to react to Joe Hendry because they have no idea who he is. I think it was smart to do this. And the pop was great. The entrance was great. Although he got eliminated right away, which
And they should have played more of the song. He didn't even get to do my favorite part with the arms. I was like, come on.
yeah. But also, I mean, yeah, it was big. But seeing a Frankie Kazarian in this was, I think, overlooked and an underrated thing to have Frankie Kazarian in that. I think that was pretty fucking cool to see him compete, and he lasted a good amount. Like he lasted a while in that battle royal. So I
Did
mean,
they have any other TNA guys? I knew about Frankie, but I was wondering if there was maybe anybody
not
else.
that I noticed. Like
Okay.
I don't remember hearing any other name by commentary. Like Frankie Kazarian kind of just caught my eye in the middle of it, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it kind of surprised me. But because they had 22 guys already in the ring, you only had 3 entrants. Of course, the winner, oh my god, and I can't remember his name now. The actual winner of the Battle Royal, who's the number 1 contender now. And then it was Hendry, and then of course Ethan Page.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I'm so into NXT. It's such a pleasant surprise from 2.0 when 2.0 started that they've come such a long way. And the other thing with Joe Hendry was he did I guess what they call like that digital exclusive where they just put it out on social media.
Oh, right.
With his interaction with Michaels and said that I'll show up to any show I want. So that I think this was a kind of probably a barometer and seeing, okay, let's see him on our network, on our show, and see what he pops. And then if we get, you know what I mean, if we get a certain amount of eyes or a certain amount of people talking or trending, then we'll say, okay, maybe he can show up, you know, in SmackDown or Raw or something like that. So I think, yeah, this TNA partnership, whatever you want to call it, is good for TNA, great for TNA. Great for TNA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I think it's good for WWE. I would like to see what guys or girls go over to TNA. And I mean, look, the Hardys are still over there, or the Hardys are over there now. I know they don't have contracts, but I mean, they're freelancing for TNA now. Like TNA is underrated as well, and that's because I believe because of their TV situation. I think Access sucks.
Yeah.
I think I think they could do so much better. I was afraid when Scott D'Amore left that.
Yeah, where is he?
You haven't even heard of him since all that shit happened.
No,
but
bizarre.
I am pleasantly surprised at how well they've been doing since he left, and that's all because of him, though. I mean, that company, the way it is because of Scott D'Amore. So I don't know. Maybe within a year or so, we'll see where they are, but. Hopefully this helps because there's so much talent there, and to mix them up in WWE and kind of get them showcased a little bit. I would love that. Look, you talk about Forbidden Door in less than 2 weeks. Let me get a pay-per-view between TNA and WWE. Like, give me Forbidden Door. Forget Forbidden Door. TNA and WWE, the talent. Oh my God. It'd be great.
AJ back in TNA.
Oh, it would be amazing. It'd be amazing.
Great. He's already going to where's he going? Noah over in Japan.
Yeah.
They just announced that. So that goes back to what you said earlier about Triple H, wanting to cross over and send people full, other places. That's phenomenal if they can do that.
So, and also on Monday night, we had our first qualifying matches for Money in the Bank. We also had the return of Seth Rollins, who came out
and
already said that he wanted to put himself in the Money in the Bank, and then Damian Priest came out and said, no, you don't have to wait till then. You don't have to fight for a briefcase. I'll give you a shot at Money in the Bank myself. So we got Rollins and Priest set up for Money in the Bank as a title match, which I didn't see coming. I assumed as soon as I saw the briefcase hanging and Rollins coming out, I assumed that's what he was there for, but that's even better that he's automatically getting a title shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious to see I like Priest. I kind of feel like he's just kind of saying his lines. He doesn't really have a real like persona. I don't know. I'm kind of ready for that to be over, but I mean, it would be great if Rollins would take it, but I feel like they're just going to keep him along until SummerSlam and then give it to Gunther, I think that seems to be the plan. And plus this way they can play into all the Judgment Day drama, which, that obviously is going to play out over time and the cracks are going to show. But I have some other theories about what they're going to do in that match, but maybe we can touch on that later. But so Rollins is back, and obviously everybody still loves him, and he's got a match, and that's only 2 weeks away, right? Money in the Bank?
Money in the Bank, I believe, is at the weekend
after Forbidden Door.
I want to say the weekend after Forbidden Door.
Remember when pay-per-views used to be on the end of the month all the time? It was so much easier to keep track of them. Now they're like all over the place.
It is it's the week. It is the week after July 6th. So
oh wow, okay,
yeah. So we'll have So you have Forbidden Door on the 30th. Then July 6th is Money in the Bank. But yeah, I mean the qualifiers they were doing them triple threat style, trying to get more people on the card. You had Jey Uso, of course, getting his ticket punched. So that. I want to call it a surprise. That was, I mean, when I looked at them, the way he is and the way how over he is, how could you not include Jey Uso in that?
Sure.
But I think the biggest thing coming out of Monday night is right after Jey Uso wins, and he's up in the crowd, and the lights go out, and finally we get the debut or return, I guess, of Uncle Howdy, but we get the debut of now. All right, so let me ask you this. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm stupid, but so
if Joe was here,
that would already been answered if Joe were here. It's the Wyatt Six, and it's SICKS
with a
Okay,
well, I think SICK, and I believe there's a 6.
6, yeah. So
right?
No, you're right. That's what the logo is. Yes,
that's what the T-shirt said that was released immediately after the show.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but but I've seen it listed wrote online. I've seen people calling it Wyatt SICKS, and I was like, okay,
which makes a little more sense.
Yeah, which either way, but on the shirt, like you said, it is 6. And I must have watched this like 4 or 5 times. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, okay, where's the 6? Where are we assuming that Bray Wyatt is number 1 and the rest is that it's because it's like that's where
it's
I'm a little
be right.
That's what I assumed. That's how I took it. Now because everyone's still.
But I did the same as you. I was like counting.
Yeah. And so, but this, again, talk about production at Clash of the Castle. I mean, you go from a Nikki Cross crawling out to Bray Wyatt's lantern, then the camera, which this camera following through Gorilla and all that shit. I love them doing that and coming back from break where they're in an atrium of a stadium and they come into the crowd and you just look over the crowd from the second level. Like, I love that they're doing this stuff, but watching that follow and going through and seeing, which I believe it's Eric Rowan as the rabbit.
Right.
With the sledgehammer in his hand. And
which
then
is a callback to the Bludgeon Brothers.
Yes. And then we go back into Gorilla and God, the mayhem that was in Gorilla of who I think it was Joe Gacy, right?
As with the kind of gas mask
I
pig man, I
think,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as you walk down the hall, you had all kinds of lighting exploding and just I don't want to say gas, smoke all over the floor and the lights flickering and it's just mayhem. And then you walk down the hall and you see Chad Gable busted. It looked like he was shot in the head, like bleeding
Yes.
from the head. Like it
Yes.
looked like a horror movie. And you're seeing these characters all for the first time, and then of course you get the ultimate reveal of Uncle Howdy standing there and him walking through and them following back out. And
Over everything.
that last scene of them standing there and holding that light and blowing it out and saying, "We're here." Like, God, it was so fucking good and edge of your seat, and you didn't want Raw to end. Like,
No, no,
the
no.
second he blew that out and it went to black, it's just like, no, just get no, come on, like
You did the same as me, right? You were like, rewind. I
yeah,
gotta watch it
yeah,
again.
like it's God, it was
But
so good.
it was so good. And then, so the other guy we didn't talk about, the one that was supposed to be, I guess, the Vulture character. Are we supposed to know that's Dexter Loomis? Is that who that is?
So that's everything I've seen online. That is who we saw Monday night. It was Dexter, Joe Gacy, obviously Bo as Uncle Howdy, and Nikki Cross as
And
Sister
Rowan.
Abigail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Rowan. Yeah.
Yeah. Which
So
it took me, like, even when it was going on, it took me a while. Like, I forgot obviously the characters from the Funhouse. I was like, oh, it's
yeah.
it dawned on me after. I think because it was Gacy's mask that threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
It looked more like, like a gas mask, but I guess then he had the pig thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a just, it was shot beautifully. It looked cool. So the part that confused me was, though, were they supposed to have had like the not actually wrestlers, but people that looked somewhat like the wrestlers, other than of course Chad Gable? Because people were saying things like they thought they saw Jey Uso, they thought they saw Gunther. Like, who were these random people they were attacked that they had attacked?
Yeah, I don't see. I've heard that too. I thought it
Yeah.
was very very dark. Now, I mean, I have some pretty new TVs in my house, so I know it's not my TV. And I know they shot it obviously to be dark like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gable's the only one I saw, but I did hear something about Gunther as well. Now,
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that.
maybe I have to go back and really look because I was so engulfed in what was going on and looking for the characters that were going to debut that I wasn't paying attention to all these things. I don't know how people have that kind of mindset going into these little things, but yeah, I did hear Gunther. I didn't hear Jey Uso, but Jey Uso was in the crowd, so I don't
Yeah,
that
that
think
would make sense, right?
yeah, but I did the one thing I did see afterwards that kind of took me out of it that I wish they didn't do is they did
Okay.
another of those digital exclusives and
Oh.
literally right afterwards
Mhm.
Kathy Kelly, right? Kathy Kelly, is that her name? The interviewer in the back. Well, Kate. Yeah, oh man, I don't know. Anyway, you know who the hell I'm talking about. She did an interview with Jey Uso in the back,
Oh,
and like
and
right after this happened, like it's how do you feel about your match? And it's just
oh no,
like
I didn't see that at all.
you just
That's
had us all
right.
this mayhem in the back of what how Raw ended, and now you're doing an interview in the back with Jey Uso. It's like you couldn't have waited. Like you couldn't have done this. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
next day, like you can't say all this happened and fucking Chad Gable looks like in a scene from CSI, but yet then you just do a backstage interview right afterwards. Like it kind
yeah.
of throws that off.
It would be like that classic Nitro episode where they they were having a main event, and Jimmy Hart came running out and said, "You got to come in the back. There's something happening." And everybody got attacked. There's ambulances laying out, and like all the audio shut off. They'd be like that, and then Mean Gene comes on and is like, "So,
yeah,
Glacier, tell me about your match."
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I didn't know about that, but that was probably a bad decision. I did see people online speaking about how, and I don't know if this was just rumor or not, but they said they were very careful to show like who was there, who wasn't there, who was in Gorilla, who wasn't in Gorilla. Like, I don't know if the whole thing with Drew played into that. Like, Triple H wasn't in Gorilla because he was with Drew. Um, it's all gonna now. My next question is, now what?
Yeah. Well, the one thing
Right?
is,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that, aside from Gable, and if Gunther was included, and I guess Gunther too, they really didn't attack anybody. Like, as far as storyline wise, like, they didn't start a
Yes.
story with anybody. They didn't. Jey Uso wasn't standing in the ring and then he got engulfed by them. You know what I mean? Like, it was literally just, we're here. This is the carnage that we caused, and
Right.
what's going to happen? Whether they're going to be on SmackDown, we don't know, obviously, or is it just going to be a Raw thing? But I mean, like, that's the other thing I kind of liked is, yeah, all that carnage, and there were wrestlers included, but I think it was just, hey, we're gonna throw this guy, this guy, like, excuse me. I think they're going to, that was the whole reason behind. I don't think it was any rhyme or reason why they, attacked who they attacked. I just think it was carnage for the sake of carnage. And
Yeah.
the storyline, the one thing that, and this always happens because I listen to Busted Open, and Joe gives me shit because I listen to Busted Open, but
I do too.
I don't understand if you're a wrestling fan. I mean, I understand he doesn't have it, so he can't listen, but if you have access to it, why you wouldn't listen to Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer and Mark Henry and Thunder Rosa and listen to all these
It's
people
on YouTube. You can
talk
watch
wrestling.
it on YouTube. Right.
So I listened to Bully, and Bully brought out a point that I did not see and did not think of until he said it. It was amazing. It was one of the best things that WWE's done in a while. But what happens when they get in the ring? You know what I mean?
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, like, these characters are menacing, and they are scary. But like, he did say, like, we know that's Nikki Cross. We know that's, we know that's
They
Dexter.
tweeted it out. Nikki Cross tweeted out that. Joe Gacy tweeted out his picture. Like,
Yeah.
that, and not to cut you off, but that was my question too, was now what? Like, I would like them to bring it back to reality a bit. Like we know who they are. Now let's see them actually wrestle, and not, I don't want to say the supernatural stuff isn't cool, but right now what's going to happen? How is this going to translate to actual wrestling matches without getting ridiculous?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that you don't want to do what you did with the Fiend to,
Right.
to where he's so unbeatable and all that. Like, and you had to go through so many things just to get him beat. Like, I think they painted themselves into a corner when it came to that.
Yeah.
Like again, like they said on Busted Open, is like, they need to have a vulnerability. They need to be able to be beat. Like, yeah, they can be dominant, but there has to be some little bit of doubt here and there to where it's believable. Because if you don't have that, you have the Fiend all over again. And like,
right,
you have to tell a story of, why is Nikki Cross? Why is she Sister Abigail? Why is Dexter Lumis this? Why is Joe Gacy this? Now, Rowan's easy. Rowan, like, he's a part, like, you don't have to tell a story with Rowan. We know why. But the other people, you're going to have to kind of help the people out. And you got to tell this story and fill in those blanks of, well, Nikki Cross was a superhero. Why is she Sister Abigail? Like, Dexter Lumis was this creepy guy who did art, but why all of a sudden? So I think there's still, obviously, it's brand new. We just saw it Monday night. So there's going to be a lot of stuff we're going to have to find out about this crew and what's going to happen with the ring. You can't just keep doing backstage beat ups and promo and vignettes
Right.
and
That
shit like
gets
that.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets old.
Like, I love
Uh,
storytelling, but eventually you have to have the payoff in the ring and it has to look good. So, I mean, not that any of the people we named are not good in the ring, all of them are, but like, you're going to need to tell that story and make it believable in the ring as well. And I think that's probably the most intriguing thing with this group, aside from the unknown.
And right. And we were talking earlier about how now there are so many stories already contained in Raw and WWE. So where now this is a whole new story. Like, where are they going to fit in? Who are they going to feud with? Who doesn't have a current storyline, or is somebody actually intelligent enough to weave this into those other storylines? And I kind of like, my thought was maybe Seth Rollins returning and having that title match in 2 weeks. Like, he's got that history with Bray, so maybe one of their first feuds involves Rollins, because that way you know, they could interfere in the match or whatever, and that way they're not involved in the title picture.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they have some kind of feud with Strowman because he's got a connection. So I'm curious to see who.
Strowman, he was one that was knocked out.
Oh, really? Okay, I
Yes.
missed that.
I
That makes
forgot.
sense.
Until you said his name, I forgot. But yes, he was one
Yeah.
of the people laid out was Strowman.
Okay, so maybe that's going to be their motivation then. Like, they're going to go after people who specifically had history with Wyatt. That could be interesting. But
Yeah.
I do hope they dial back the supernatural, and they take the masks off. They talk about why, especially my hope is that Bo, can really pull it off. And
I
is
think
he gonna
he's
be
the only
Bo?
one, though.
Yeah.
Bo is the only one that I think should not take off the mask.
Okay, that's fair.
I think because, yeah, I mean, look, Nikki Cross, I don't know what that mask was. It kind of looked like a Leatherface inspired type mask or makeup, whatever it was on her face.
Yeah.
So,
right.
like, if it is a form fitting face mask, she could theoretically wrestle in that, and you can still see her mouth, her nose, her eyes. So you can still get the facials in a match where, yeah, obviously Rowan and Dexter and Gacy, those guys, yes, you're going to need to take off the mask.
Because they're all very expressive, especially Gacy and Loomis with
Yeah.
their look.
Yeah. So I think with those, yes, I agree. But look, Howdy before has been physical in that mask, and it looks like it's almost like what Taker wore when he broke his orbital bone back in
Oh,
the,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's kind of what that Uncle Howdy mask, because it looks like they kind of reimagined it a little bit, because you're seeing more of Bo's actual face from what we've seen in pictures and that the actual footage. Like, so I think him and I think Nikki Cross are the two that I wouldn't mind, because they look so form fitting and they look like you can see things. Where the other three, I agree. Yeah, I think their masks have to come off. You have to be able, because if you can't look, the facials are one of the biggest things in pro wrestling. You got to get across pain. You got to get across, you know what I mean, anger. You got to get across everything in a match. And they can't, those big fucking things, they can't wear them in a match. You just can't do it.
Yeah, especially Rowan's with the rabbit ears.
Yeah.
It was funny. I did think about too, when they finally revealed everybody, and I thought about, wow, imagine if it would have worked out and it would have been Bray, but he would have brought in Righteous.
Oh,
Like, you would have had Vincent and Dutch and even Vita Von Dar. I mean, as Sister Abigail, you get a Bateman. I mean, I could see those guys in those roles.
so
Obviously.
one thing I will say that now that everything has happened and
Oh yeah.
people are the way where they are. So we did a show, and I'm sure people remember who have watched it with Bill when
Oh yeah.
Uncle Howdy was still coming up, and we seen them in NXT, and
Sure.
we talked to him about it off camera, and they did try out again. They did go down and they did try out. But I mean, it was the pandemic. It was bad timing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it never really worked out. And then Bray, of course, having his issues and stuff like that. It's just a lot of stuff was against that. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff, but it was never them. Like it was never he didn't. It's one thing. Bill is 100% clear when he's on our show. He doesn't fucking lie. Obviously, he never shows up in character. Last time we had him on, he was sitting on his couch in a bathrobe. Like
Yeah. I think he was sick.
yeah.
Wasn't he sick?
No,
Drinking
he
his
was just
Gatorade?
he was just chilling at that point. But he's 100%
Oh, okay.
transparent. He wasn't kidding when he said that they weren't there because they were signing contracts or they were like they never. It never really happened. It never really came to where it got serious or anything like that. Like he was telling the truth on the show. Like, and I know he's a very funny guy, and it seems like he's joking mostly all the time, which a lot of times he is. But when he was talking wrestling, he wasn't telling any lie. Like they really weren't a part of it. They really didn't. You know what I mean? So
and it worked out great because I think they brought the righteous to AEW, and I think it's wonderful. I mean, I think their little vignettes and their matches, and especially teaming up with Archer. I mean, it's been great.
Yeah.
You know, they're out there. They're on TV. So and
they're definitely getting probably the most exposure they've gotten with AEW. Definitely more recently. Definitely.
Sure.
And it's good to see because those guys, I mean, Vincent and Dutch we've talked to several times. Vincent we had on the show once. Like, they're such good guys, and you know, I mean, they're so good. I think very underrated when it comes in the pro wrestling business. But it's good to see them. I wish they would be a even more prominent role. Selfishly,
absolutely.
But I mean, it's cool that they're getting the time, they're working. You know what I mean, and they're getting what they deserve so far.
And a lot of people, quite frankly, aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just very happy they are presented and are on television. As we know, there's still a lot of people that just, you know, almost feels like they're just going to let them run their contract out. It's kind of sad to watch. You know, especially, you know, like a Kip Sabian or somebody that's so talented, and they're great company folks. I mean, he's out there every week tweeting, watch the show. And you're just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Take Jericho off. We don't need to see him.
It sucks. It's the only thing with AEW. I mean, for me personally, I know how good AEW can be. Obviously, anyone who's listened to our show more than 5 minutes knows how Joe feels about AEW and Tony Khan.
Sure.
Yeah. But like they do a lot of things right. The MJF thing was done right. I think the bringing him back, and I wasn't a big fan of him and Roosh, who not probably had definitely already done their match tonight on Dynamite, starting off commercial free. Like I did not. It wasn't like I wasn't expecting it, and I'm not hyped for it at all. But I mean, they do a lot of things the right way, and that's the biggest thing. Is that I think they get a bad rap. I think Tony Khan gets a bad rap about it, and I just want to. The bloated roster is their biggest issue. I mean, storytelling can be, but the bloated roster hurts. It just, you have so many people, and I get Tony Khan wanted to keep people paid. He didn't want them to lose money during the pandemic. I get that, and that's an honorable thing to do. But there has to be a point to where you got to go, let me look at this roster, and how do I, like, people have to go. They have to. You're paying, you're losing all this money. Let's be honest. They're not exactly lighting the world on fire when it comes to ticket sales and attendance. Like, you're
No,
losing that money,
unfortunately.
and you're
Yeah.
losing money on people who are you're paying and that just sit there and come to go to catering or sit at home. You're just paying for those people. So like
Yeah.
what there something has to give. And that's the biggest issue. Is like you have to make money. It's a business. You're in it for making money. So if you can let go of some of these people, and it really sucks to put people out of a job, but with the indie promotions that are running hot, with all of the TNA and the WWE doing what they're doing and working together, there's a lot of options out there for wrestlers, more than there ever has been. So I think
Yeah.
that
I
that's a
mean,
big problem.
Joey Janela has said it himself. You don't have to go to one of the big companies. Like, you can make money, you can be on the indies and do just fine. And yeah, I mean, my calendar is completely filled. I can't even keep track of all the indie shows I want to go to. Some weekends there's like 2 or 3 shows. I have shows I could go to, and it's like I have to make hard decisions.
Yeah.
And they're usually all pretty well attended as well. It's just a really good time, and there's plenty of opportunity. And yeah, I would much rather, I mean, it's up to the individual wrestler, of course, but I would much rather see somebody on a GCW than sitting in the back in catering in AEW, if that's what they want to do. I mean, look at Danhausen.
Yeah.
Danhausen is wrestled more for GCW in the last couple of months than he's ever wrestled for AEW. And he's actually, he's a very good wrestler. So they're utilizing him. Conspiracy theories abound, that he's never going to wrestle there again because his friendship with Punk, but whatever. But he's heavily involved in some of their biggest storylines in GCW now. So, he's a great example of somebody that can do well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see with AEW. Look, you got Forbidden Door coming up
Yes.
in less than 2 weeks.
Yes.
Which, one thing that we've always said, regardless of the negativity that we may put out about AEW, is they know how to put on a great pay-per-view card. It doesn't
yeah.
you know what I mean? You can't argue that, because they are the promotion that puts on dream matches, that puts on multiple 5-star matches. That they always do that. So I think that with that, I just, the thing that bothers me the most is, because you have these great pay-per-views, it draws you in, which is the point. But then you get to the TV show, and the TV show can be a letdown. You can, like, they'll fumble around for 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on when their next pay-per-view is. And it's just like, God, man, why do I want to watch this pay-per-view? Oh, well, they put on an amazing card, so I guess I'll watch it. And then you're blown away by the pay-per-view, and it all starts over again. And then it's like, yeah. MJF is fucking amazing. And there are segments you put out, like Timeless Tony Storm, who is the best female character I've seen in a long time, and by far, right now, the best. There's no one that touches Tony Storm right now.
No, even right. Like, last year it was MJF. Nobody could touch him. He would come out and kill it.
Yeah.
And when he went down, she has taken over.
Yep.
Like, she is the one, more than anybody on that roster, that just character-wise hitting it out of the park.
Yeah.
But, and even to go back to what you said earlier, like the chase, now Swerve has the belt.
Yeah.
And the chase was great.
Yeah.
But now what?
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. It's the same. We're kind of stuck in the same thing with him and Cody and all these guys that had these great chase stories. Now you're just waiting for the next great chase story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, no, I agree. It does. I mean, I don't ever like go out of my way to not watch AEW. I every Wednesday, like, usually we record on Wednesdays, so usually after we're done recording, I will, whether I'm editing or something like that, I will still turn AEW on, watch. I'll fast forward through things that I may not like, or the single random matches that they throw out are what bother me. Like, because we said, how many times we've said even the word story on this show tonight. Like, if you're just putting, again, Roosh and MJF, all right, we're just gonna wrestle just because. Like, I get it. You got to fill your card. I get it, but I just or there's a tournament and Owen Hart Memorial. That's great. I love that they do that, and it's just like, okay, that's good, but like, I mean, stories have to come from it. You have to build, and they have gotten better. They've got AEW has tried, like the Christian story and everything like that. Like, they've done really good here and there. It just, there needs to be more. There need to be more long term. And aside from the MJF Cole thing, that's the most recent one there where I could say it's a long term story. Whether you like the payoff or not, it's irrelevant. At least they were trying.
Yeah.
So that's that my biggest thing is the one-off matches, lack of storytelling, and their TV show suffers because of it. And obviously their ticket sales suffer because of it. I mean, that's why you're getting these pictures of people taking pictures of the hard cam side with, you know what I mean, Edge standing in the ring and nobody fucking behind him, or Adam Copeland. Like, it just
I know what you mean.
yeah. Like, it just, how do you go from selling out Toronto for your retirement celebration, and then you walk out and you make that speech about pro wrestling and all after the whole Punk thing came out, and like, it was a great speech and it made me want to run through a wall. But then you see a picture on Thursday morning of him talking to Hardcam side, and there's no one fucking there. Like, it's just like,
Yeah.
God, it has to be deflating as a superstar to see that. I don't care how gung ho you are for AEW and how much you love Tony Khan, especially for guys like him and women like Mercedes, who have been and done several WrestleManias, to walk out and be like, yeah, this is great. I have all this freedom and I'm getting a lot of money for what I'm doing, but like, where are all the people?
Yeah, I don't know, Larry. I've been asking myself that the same question because, I mean, obviously, I've been going there since day one, and it was every show that I would go to was just insane.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
Yeah.
And they just seem to be getting bigger. I mean, when they first had that Arthur Ashe Stadium show, I couldn't believe the size of the crowds.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. But now, like, I'm trying to pinpoint when everything dropped off because it was consistent every week. Like, wherever town they went to, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're getting AEW. But I don't know what, they just haven't been able to sustain it. And now I feel like you were saying it's going like this. It's like
they always sell out a pay-per-view. Like, I mean, you never see a pay-per-view like that. But again, like we said, pay-per-views, they deliver tenfold, and people know that. You know what I mean? So even if they were to come here for a pay-per-view, it'd be hard for me and Joe to not go, because you're like, dude, you're seeing 4 or 5 hours of an amazing fucking card. So why not? But like,
right,
for TV, like, I'll get MJF here maybe, and I'll get Swerve, and I'll get these guys, but like, they're so inconsistent with storytelling and keeping people on TV. You could see them 3 weeks. You could be a fan of the Gun Club or the Bang Bang Gang, whatever the hell you want to call them this week. Like, you could be a fan of them and then be on TV and be featured for a month, and you buy tickets for next month, and then they're off TV for another 2 months. Like, and you're like, what the fuck? I thought I was going to, like, that's the biggest problem, is that's what it is.
It's funny you say that, because when they announced that Collision was going to tape in Allentown, which is tomorrow night, even at that point, I stopped myself because of that exact reason, because I couldn't feel like I knew for certain that it was going to be like who was going to be there, what was going to happen. Even up until yesterday, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and we're still on the fence because it's like as of last week, the only thing they had announced was a tag match with Jericho and Big Bill versus Private Party. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not driving to Allentown at rush hour in 100-degree weather for a Jericho tag match. You got to give me something. And then, wouldn't you know it, then Will Ospreay tweets out, "Hey, I'm going to be in Allentown." You could almost hear like AEW being like,
Yeah.
"Come to this show," you
It,
know? And I'm still on the fence, and I love Ospreay, but
yeah.
it's just I know it's going to be 2 hours of Collision, and 1 hour of Ring of Honor, which I still can't call it Ring of Honor because I read the results and I'm just like, who are these people? You know?
That is so funny the way you said Ring of Honor, that I never would imagine that way of Ring of Honor coming out of your mouth, out of all people. Like, and that's the common conception about Ring of Honor is, and look, like we said, with guys like the Righteous and all, and they're getting their chance on Ring of Honor, they're getting their
Yeah,
spotlight, but
yeah,
Ring of Honor's not treated the way Ring of Honor fans want it to be treated. And I'm sure Kerry Solkin and amongst other diehard people that were involved in the original Ring of Honor, like a Mecca and like a Rhett Titus and like those guys who blood, sweat, and tears in that company would
yeah,
like it. Like, you know what I mean? It's
oh,
just when we
yeah,
talked to Rhett a little bit ago, we asked him about it, and he gave us a political answer, which of course because I mean he still works for Ring of Honor AEW
sure.
version, so
I
we
would
get it.
expect he'll be on there tomorrow,
Yeah, like
probably.
we get that, but like you can tell just by the way he says it that it's not Ring of Honor. If it would go by any other name, if it would go by any other name, it would
Yeah.
be zero issue, zero. But again, it's just like my buddy was talking to me about the Roadhouse remake with
Oh,
Gyllenhaal and McGregor, and that
right.
reaction right there that you just made is the same thing. Is if that movie with Gyllenhaal and McGregor came out and was named any fucking thing else in the world, it would be a pretty damn good movie and be like, that actually ain't too bad. But because you put Roadhouse on it, instantly everyone's thinking Patrick Swayze, cult classic, great junk food movie. Like you're thinking that and you're going, that's not that. Well, yeah, no shit, it's not that. Like, but that's the thing is that you can't you stifle yourself immediately when you connect it with something that was so loved and now you're making it something so different that's what's going to happen. And Ring of
Yeah.
Honor, unfortunately, is suffering that because of AEW.
I know I knew I was definitely done with it when I ran into Carrie Silken in Bethlehem at a show. Um, and we talked about it. And he looked at me and he said, "You know what the problem is?" He goes, "Well, first of all," he's like, "that's not Ring of Honor." And
No,
you know why? And he looked at me and he went, "No heart."
you're right.
And I was like,
You're right.
well, that's coming from the man himself. And boy, he nailed it. I was like, you know what, Carrie? That's actually, you're right. There's no heart. And I was like, at that point, it's like, well,
Yeah.
this vindicates everything
Yeah.
I've been feeling. And look, I love Ian Riccaboni. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell happened with him and Kevin Kelly, but like, and I know like he's still out there touting it, but like the diehard people that used to love Ring of Honor are just they're nobody's into it because it's
No.
like I think you said it, it's in name only.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And like you said with the heart thing, like that's like the quote from the replacements when they're down and they don't have Falco and they bring back the quarterback and they say, what's going on? What do you need?" And he goes, "Heart. Miles and miles of heart." And that's exactly what Ring of Honor needs is it needs
Yeah,
its heart back and it'll never get it back
No.
Aside from in him releasing it, which he'll never fucking do because he wants the library, like it'll just die and it'll be off. It won't be on TV or it won't be on whatever it's on anymore, and that'll be it. But I think we saw the end of Ring of Honor. We saw
100%.
Final Battle. That was the end of Ring of Honor. Whether you
Yeah.
want to call the other thing Ring of Honor or not, okay, whatever. But we saw the end of Ring of Honor, and that's. I'm happy that we were there because that was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm glad. I still have. Remember the pictures they had on the seats, like
Oh, sure.
We Love Ring of Honor and all that. I
Yeah,
still have them,
yeah.
which I haven't put up. I got to put up behind me. I have them in my funny enough in my sock drawer underneath everything. And I had them there because when we were moving, I didn't want to damage them. So I'm like, all right, I'll put them down flat surface. That way I don't, but I definitely got to put them up because I want to put the represent Ring of Honor behind me. But yeah, like that's another good point. Ring of Honor, God, I miss, especially the pandemic years. Like when the pandemic, there was no better wrestling than Ring of Honor.
Yes, all that production that they did and the vignettes and the shows were tight and the outreach they had to their fans.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it was that's what solidified it for me and which made it even more devastating when they went down, you know? And the only good part about it is like keeping those relationships with, you know, fans and wrestlers. Like so many of those wrestlers now, I just see them at other shows and you have that bond, you know, your LSGs, your cheeseburgers, Rhett, and they live on and you know, other promoters are emulating that, you know, as we know, like Fight Pro, which, you know, is going to come back someday. I know it. But and that kind of passion and heart lives on. But and how easy you would think it would be for a man with Tony Khan and how much love he has supposedly has for this. Like he could have given them like Rampage because nobody cares about Rampage. But you could have like ran with what made it great and the people that made it great, and it would be just as good, if not better. I mean,
we could go on for a while talking about this.
We could.
But I think we'll wrap it up there.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for filling in for Joe. I appreciate it.
No, it was a nice surprise when I got the call.
Yeah, last minute booking.
It was like you finally dumped him. All right. Oh, just today? Okay.
Yeah, just today. At least for this week. I mean, who knows what could happen next week? I don't know. What's
important is what's now.
That's right. That's right. It's right always now. Important to worry about what is right now.
I had to get that in.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of now, so it is July the 14th. Well, actually, it's July 13th through 15th is 90s Con down in AC.
Yes.
Which I'm still figuring out if I'm going to make it or not. I'm trying my hardest to try and get down there. I will try. I'm trying to go. Oh, wait, is it 14, 15, 16? Or 13? Let me look at the calendar. But since I said it, I got to make sure I get the dates right for people who may not know about it.
Because you were telling me something about a big match.
It is 12, 13, 14. The second weekend in July, 12th, 13th, 14th, weekend after Money in the Bank. We have 90s Con, which is usually run by Tommy Fierro of ISPW. He always 80s Con's awesome. So 90s Con.
Fun.
I can't wait. There's already big names. You can look up ISPW, look up 90s Con. You can see all the announcements on Facebook. But also that night, and I got confirmation from Vic Delicious that ISPW is running a event Saturday night, and the Now will be in a cage match that night. Ooh. So we have a cage match for the Now. I don't know who their opponents are. I haven't really seen the card yet. I haven't seen the card announcement yet, unless I just missed it. But
I have not seen it either, but I've been looking.
Yeah, so the 14th or the 13th is the Saturday, is the one where I'm trying to get down on Saturday. and see the now in the cage match. So, but 12th, 13th, and 14th is the con. So if you can get down to AC, all the details, look up ISPW on Facebook, 90s Con on Facebook, get all the details where you can get your tickets for meet and greet, and also look out for ISPW's announcement on that card for the night of the 13th, because ISPW puts on a great show, great indie show, and never disappoint. And not only that, you can live in the now. So that's
Who
always.
doesn't want to live in it now? We
I
all
mean,
we all do anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just want to get that in there because I'm still trying. I'm hoping to get there. I'm determined to get there. So I'm gonna get there either way. If I have to drive down by myself, I'm getting there. So that'll about wrap it up. Again, Scott, thank you again for sitting in for Joe and doing this. It's a good show.
Yeah,
and
good stuff to talk about.
Before we leave, because I know Joe can't interrupt me when I say this, but congratulations to me and all of the fans of the 2024 NBA champion Boston Celtics.
Okay. Jeez, man.
I can't be interrupted by Joe.
Oh, no, I'll be Joe right now. Oh, are you kidding me?
The Boston Celtics are world champions once again. Banner number 18.
I'm afraid we're all that time, folks.
So I just wanted to say that on the show, and Joe can't fucking stop me, so that's even better. So thanks everybody for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, don't take any shit from anybody. See you guys.